And that's why modern day capitalism is a scam. We need to.
Excuse me? What the hell is going on here?
Oh, great. This guy.
Mind telling me what you're doing on my turf?
Your turf? Did those titans hit you one too many times, old man?
Aw, that's cute. Now get the hell out of here before I show you why those titans are dead.
What kind of chaos coke are you on? You snooze, you lose, slowpoke.
Oh, we're really doing this.
You wanna go, Titan fodder?
Yeah, let's go right now, 06 Spawn.
A while back, we took a look at Sonic Prime. The first season was, not gonna lie, pretty cool. How does season 2 stack up? The answer may surprise you. Sonic Prime is a 2022 action comedy set in the multiverse. In season 2, Sonic searches for pieces of the broken Paradox Prism. If successful, he'll be able to restore his fractured reality. However, the 5 Eggmen of the Apocalypse plan to use the crystals to conquer the universe. Can Sonic stop them in time? Who knows? This is one of the hardest videos I've ever had to write. I wanted to praise season 2 just like I did for season 1. Unfortunately, it left me rather disappointed. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew something was off. Prime is the latest victim of the Netflix mindset. It has great production values, but suffers from excessive padding and rather questionable writing choices. Don't get me wrong, season 2 is still enjoyable, yet it's not as good as it could be. Is that enough to shatter my experience? Before we continue, this video assumes you've seen my coverage on season 1. I recommend you watch that first. Also, full spoilers ahead. Come at me, bro.
Come at me, bro.
The season opens with Shadow giving Sonic detention. Shadow's like,
"Your irresponsible behavior turned our world into a nightmare. Let's save the universe my way."
The Hedgehogs arrive at Ghost Hill Zone, a malformed reflection of Green Hill. Sonic gets depressed by seeing holographic remnants of his friends. Okay, quick correction from part 1. You know how Sonic and Shadow don't have doppelgangers? Sonic absorbed a big chunk of Prism energy and avoided splitting his body. Meanwhile, Shadow narrowly escaped the energy wave. Even worse, Shadow bonks his head and loses his Chaos Emerald. We're 5 minutes in, and the showrunners waste no time disappointing Shadow fans. People, chaos control your expectations. My first disappointment is how basic the world design is. Prime suffers from what I call the new Super Mario Bros. Syndrome. The art direction is well crafted and well executed, but it's lacking that X factor. Prime goes the ChatGPT route of generating worlds. Let's do Green Hill, but with pirates. Arg! Let's do it again, but as a jungle. It uses the laziest, most generic take of said ideas. Where is the innovation? The worst offender is Ghost Hill Zone. It's just Green Hill with an Instagram filter. A freaking Instagram filter. I get that it's a spooky reflection of Sonic's community, but it comes off as lazy. I would put Ghost Hill below the Grim in D tier. At least the Grim is a space desert and it isn't just a simple palette swap. Why not have a Sonic Lost World type dimension where it's floating islands with distorted gravity? Or how about a dimension themed after Studiopolis Zone from Mania? Or better yet, if it's gonna be a ghost zone, why not have some unrendered terrain to sell the idea that it's in an unfinished state? That'd be something more unique than just, oh, simple Instagram filter. A certain indie film did this multiverse concept way better. Okay, there's this movie about these arachnid people. You've probably never heard of it. It's set in New York City, but each dimension brings its own take on the Big Apple. You've got places inspired by street graffiti, old detective comics, mecha anime, etc. This level of creativity is lacking in Prime. It might not be fair comparing a multi-million-dollar film to a small streaming series, yet I get the feeling the showrunners could have done so much more with this concept. Back to the plot. Sonic loudly proclaims, "With teamwork, we can save everyone." Shadow's like,
"Bro, your track record says otherwise. Stand aside and let a professional handle it."
Sonic takes a lot of L's this season. Shadow decides to steal Sonic's Prism gear and, if successful, he might be able to enter his favorite game, LEGO Dimensions. Okay, maybe not LEGO Dimensions, but you get my point. The best part of Sonic Prime is its action. I spent a good portion of the last video praising the fight choreography. Let's go over the things I forgot to mention. Dr. Don't unveils a system of controlling his bots via his Oculus Rift. In the city world, Sonic gets hammered by not Metal Sonic. More on that later. But when we get to the other robots, we hit a brick wall. There's a serious lack of enemy variety. In the past Sonic cartoons, part of the fun was seeing Eggman argue with his mechanical henchman. Prime has Eggman bouncing off himself, well, literally. While this banter might be fun, it lacks that "snooping as usual I see" energy that fans came to expect, especially after decades of haha dumb robots. How does the Chaos Council address this problem? They have a generic infantry unit, a non-lethal drone unit, and that robot dude from Sonic Battle. That's it? They couldn't design anything else? They could have at least given the bots different skins based on who commands them. The most common unit is the Egg Forcer, an all-in-one foot soldier. It looks cool, but it's blatantly overused. Plus, its super forms are kind of lame. You're telling me this show has 5 mad geniuses, and they couldn't think of anything better? It reeks of laziness. You could chalk this up to saving the budget, except this show went out of its way to create other robots. Hell, Orbot and Cubot appear for a hot minute. None of these bots appear in New York City, or the other dimensions for that matter. You're telling me that Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, and Big can get different versions of themselves. That didn't hurt the studio's bottom line. But doing a fresh take on our favorite polygonal robots? Oh, that's way too much to ask for. Better recycle those damn Egg Forcers. Even worse, the Sonic Boom cartoon, which came out a decade ago, could afford a dozen enemy types. It had giant mechs, deadly flame bots, and flying cows. Flying cows! Sonic Boom might lack the fluidity of Sonic Prime's set pieces, but it was far more dexterous with its resources. On top of that, the lack of robot variety ends up numbing my eyeballs. Back at Ghost Hill, Shadow manages to snatch Sonic's gear with his powers of coolness. He tries to enter a gateway, but gets yeeted into oblivion. Sonic rescues him and makes an offer. Work together and fix the multiverse. Shadow reluctantly agrees, but then he's benched for most of the series. Shadow's portrayal in Sonic Prime is both a blessing and a curse. He might be rude, but he's the antidote to Sonic's relentless optimism. Shadow warns Sonic,
"You got to be careful, man. Your cyborg friend might look like Tails, but he ain't the OG. He might betray you."
if he's so wise, then why is this show hellbent at keeping Shadow in the sidelines? To be frank, he is a little overpowered. Shadow can brute force his way to victory. What was the show's solution? Chain him to the void and make him slow down the Egg Mothership. He doesn't sneak inside to mess with the controls, or board it when he sees Sonic hanging on for dear life. Shadow just throws pebbles at the ship. Real classy, guys. Sonic learns that the Chaos Council is hunting the Prism Shards. The 5 Eggmen have captured 9, an angsty cyborg version of Tails. The Doctors steal 9's research and use it to travel across the Spiderverse. The story then transitions into a fetch quest. Team Sonic and Team Eggman play hot potato with the crystals. The Doctors get the upper hand and escape with the treasure. The middle chunk of Season 2 has a ton of issues. At first, I thought it was padded out just to soak up more watch time. That's a major factor, but there's a deeper reason that finally became clear. Sonic Prime is structured more like a 12-hour movie rather than a typical TV series. This sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. The typical American movie follows a 3-act structure. Act 1 sets up the story, Act 2 ramps up the urgency, and Act 3 delivers the payoffs. It's a solid format for writing 2-hour screenplays. Netflix will take this simple format and expand it out to 12 hours of content. This quote-unquote approach often results in not so good pacing. That's not all. Netflix promoted the show as having 3 distinct seasons. That means each season has its own self-contained arc, right? Wrong! Sonic Prime was written as one season that spans 24 episodes, not the other way around. This 3-season designation was done in order to space out the Netflix release schedule. The first season, or first act of Prime, is all about setting up the Spiderverse. Sonic meets the doppelgangers, earns their trust, and learns how the multiverse works. This first act took its time and succeeded at developing the cast. Season 2, the second act of the story, is where it kicks into high gear. The stakes begin to escalate. Your typical second act doesn't have to worry about excessive exposition. You know why Team Sonic and Team Eggman are fighting each other. The second act is more focused on dismantling Sonic's uncritical views on friendship. The problem with Season 2 is that it's horribly stretched out. There's enough story for 3, maybe 4 episodes if we're being generous. Instead, it's an 8-episode marathon. Act 1 finished most of the character arcs. Aside from Sonic and Nine's relationship, Act 2 doesn't have much potential for personal growth, so it had to increase its runtime in the way of side plots and fight scenes. Act 2 has a few charming side tangents, but they end up feeling rushed with very little payoff. For example, Cyborg Amy takes revenge on the Eggman who abandoned her. Rusty Rose befriends her pirate counterpart and develops a strong bond. I admit, it's kinda sweet, but it's rushed to the point of not leaving much of an impact. The most egregious example is Captain Knuckles, Captain Dread. Last time we saw this pirate, Sonic taught him how to be brave. How does Dread repay Sonic for this TEDx talk? He launches a mutiny against the Blue Blur. Why? So Dread can hoard the shards for himself. Dread lies to his crew that Sonic was planning to abandon them once he defeated the Chaos Council. Later in New York City, Dread helps Sonic to fend off Fart the Electric Jester. Does he fully apologize for the error of his ways? You gotta wait until Season 3. This whole separate into 3 seasons idea drives me nuts. God, it's incredibly frustrating from a viewer perspective. I would have preferred if Netflix released the entire series on a regular basis, rather than drip feeding it across 2 years. Season 3 better deliver some amazing payoffs, or risk ending on a whimper. Lastly, there are way too many fight scenes. Now, the choreography is spectacular. I'm not complaining about the animation, but there's just not enough downtime between battles. Good action shows know when to give the audience a breather. Prime barely catches his breath. Okay, meanwhile, Sonic hitches a ride to New York City. Nine accidentally brags about building a Sonic replica in his sleep. The Eggmen steal that idea for themselves. Whoops. Chaos Sonic is a prism-enhanced foe who mirrors Sonic's worst impulses. To be honest, Chaos Sonic leaves one hell of an impression. First, he's a force to be reckoned with. Secondly, he's the moral inversion of Sonic himself. Chaos Sonic gloats at every turn and shows no mercy on the rebels. He's such a well-written rival. Unfortunately, he gets knocked out by a giant laser. Ouch. But, knowing this franchise, it's likely he'll be back for Season 3. And we're hoping for it cause he chaos controls our hearts. The Eggmen design a portal gun using Nine's prism research. They open portals to Boz Cage Maze and No Place, though these rifts develop cracks within the Shadowverse. Sonic then breaks Nine out of Prism. Nine's like, "I'm sorry Sonic, the Eggmen caught me doing spy stuff. They forced me to lure you into a trap with Chaos Sonic." Sonic reassures him,
It's not your fault. You took a risk for not only me, but everyone in the multiverse. I still believe in you.
The boys recover the shards and travel across the Shadowverse. Someone should turn that into a movie. Nine does a double take after beating his doppelgangers. If I were him, I would do a double take witnessing the redemption of Sega's dopey fisherman. For decades, Big the Cat was treated as a one-note doofus. Prime flips that reputation on its head. During the Pirate Mutiny episode, Catfish almost deletes Sonic. Catfish is horrified, but his bloodthirsty pet frog proceeds to blast Sonic like no tomorrow. Not gonna lie, this is one of the funnier moments in Sonic Prime. I swear, between this show and his inclusion in Sonic Frontiers, Big is making a worthy comeback. Okay, maybe not a big comeback, but he's making progress. Sonic and Nine rendezvous with Shadow. Nine's like, "Sonic, is that your Hot Topic variant?" Shadow chimes in.
Hot Topic, fool. I am the ultimate life form. Don't lecture me with your $30 haircut.
Okay then.
Hardly. I am the ultimate life form.
Don't listen to him.
The trio arrives at Ghost Hill. Nine gets a taste of the Prism Ghosts, including Prime Tails. Spooky. Nine warns the Hedgehogs that if he makes even one mistake, reality itself might freeze. It's confirmed. The universe runs on the same code as Sonic 06. Nine begins to reconstruct the prism. Outside the cave, Shadow expresses his doubt on Nine's motivations. Sonic goes,
Nine might be on edge, but he's proven to be reliable.
Shadow argues,
Dude, are you dense? That version of Tails is hella suspicious. What's stopping him from using the prism for his own gain?
just in time, the Chaos Council launches an all-out assault. The Hedgehogs work together and put up a good fight. This battle is explosive, well choreographed, and just all around spectacular. Meanwhile, Nine accidentally triggers an EMP wave. For a brief moment, the Prism ghosts gain consciousness. Sonic tries to speak with them, but the ghosts soon return to playback mode. Sonic? There's a battle going on. You're very easily distracted, huh? And dude, for future reference, you need to learn to look ahead and see just where you're running to. The Eggman unleashed their secret weapon, Titan Eggman. He's not as cool as the giant mechs in Frontiers, but he gets the job done. 9 channels a high concentration of epic gamer energy into Sonic's body. Sonic gets a super form, defeats the Egg Titan, and causes the Chaos Cancel to briefly retreat. Sonic returns to his normal form and meets up with 9. Sonic's like,
Great, we fixed the prism. We can restore my home. Wait, where's the last piece?
9 reveals the truth. Dude, I've been thinking about your plan. It's not good.
What?
What will happen if you undo the multiverse? Myself and the other doppelgangers are gonna vanish forever.
I thought you were my real friend.
You never considered my desires. You think the power of teamwork will fix our trauma, but it won't. I'm gonna build a better world in the Grim, and you're not invited. 9 knocks Sonic out of commission, steals the Prism, and escapes into the Grim. I gotta admit, that is one hell of a cliffhanger. Let's briefly touch on Sonic and 9's strained relationship. In Season 1, Sonic learned to slow down and step into the shoes of his allies. Before Sonic arrived, 9 was bullied for having a pair of tails. In response, he built extra cybernetic limbs to care for himself, plus he accepted his status as an outcast. Sonic convinced 9 that friendship will solve their issues. Sonic assumes that 9 will act the same as Prime Tails, a friendly fox who unconditionally accepts Sonic's judgment. In reality, the cybernetic fox wants to mold the universe to where he isn't a loser. That's what happens when he has to be edgy to survive. In a flashback, we learn that 9 was conducting prism experiments in the Grim. He's like, whoa, I can make a world where I'm respected by others, and I can't wait for Sonic, my first ever friend, to see this great idea. But Sonic declines, saying he can't leave his other new friends behind. Sonic was too oblivious in reading 9's true desires. In the present, 9 calculates the true implications of Sonic's multiversal reset. Learning that Sonic wanted to delete both 9 and everything else in the multiverse, that certainly struck a nerve. Wait, there's a subtle discussion on the value of life in the multiverse? At the end of Season 2, Sonic realizes that unconditional trust in people you just met isn't the best idea. He gets betrayed by Dredd and eventually 9 himself. Sonic has to contend with his inability to see past the here and now. Whoa, will this plot twist pay off? Can Sonic redeem 9 in Season 3? Only time will tell. Alright, let's wrap this up.
No problem, Sonic.
Season 2 of Sonic Prime is enjoyable, but it comes with a ton of caveats. It's not a standalone season with its own arc, but is rather the second act of a larger story, so I have to evaluate it a little differently this time. The animation, comedy, and fight scenes are all spectacular. The season brilliantly foreshadows the fallout between Sonic and 9. On top of that, Chaos Sonic was a welcome addition. Unfortunately, this season suffers from underdeveloped side plots, a padded runtime, plus the heavy amount of cut corners is obscenely evident. The Egg Forcers have entered the chat. Season 3 is set to premiere sometime in early 2024. Will the showrunners be able to deliver a satisfying conclusion? Or will it end in a flat line? We'll have to wait and see. Thank you for watching. Remember, no hedgehogs were harmed in the making of this video.